Max Verstappen is now entering a very turbulent era with Red Bull, the first one without Christian Horner at the helm of the team. However, with many suggesting that he's standing behind this because of the request for performance, could Red Bull finally provide what he's been seeking for so long? And more importantly, if they fail, will he follow suit and join Mercedes from 2026 onwards? The situation between Max Verstappen and Red Bull is now very entangled, and there are a lot of loose ends that need to be tied for us to finally understand who's standing behind this saga. But what can be seen from the surface is that Christian Horner has been blamed for the lack of performance, hence his immediate release of all duties. And this could be done because of one of two things. The first one is that Red Bull believes that Max is already gone from the team, so they're going to commit to a full proper rebuild in the team. This is the less likely scenario. The second one is that Red Bull is finally committing to listen to Max and his demands because they know how important he is behind all of their recent successes, so they cannot afford to lose him. And this is where the Max factor comes into play. The four-time world champion has reportedly requested more performance out of the car, and under the leadership of Pierre Watch and Enrico Balba, it has been all but that. Tons of upgrades have been brought to the RB21 and last year's Challenger as well, but nothing brought nearly what Verstappen needs. To make matters worse, the Dutchman was alarmed about these issues even when he was winning 19 out of the 23 races in 2023, stating that if the car's development continues in this direction, these days will be history. It turned out to be exactly that. And now the management team of Max stated loud and clear that while they knew Horner would be relieved of his duties, informed by Red Bull itself, that's not their issue, and they're looking for performance gains. Addressing this to a greater extent, the team of Verstappen said, "We were informed in advance about this decision by Red Bull management. It's up to Red Bull to expand on why they did this. We continue to focus on the sporting side, and we are looking for more performance, so we can return to the top. In that sense, nothing changes." So what needs to be mentioned here as the most important thing in terms of Verstappen receiving stability and performance? Let's say that the departure of Horner will bring a bit more inner peace in the internal circles of Red Bull. But is that enough for Max to concentrate more on racing? I don't think so. He was never the type of driver to care about this drama. He was always pushing for more performance and better behavior of the car. And ever since Newey left, the downfall has been more than obvious. The technical team led by Pierre Watch and Enrico Balba has been promising improvements left and right, but we've seen that nothing works. Even senior figures like Helmut Marko said that what they're seeing in the wind tunnel is not correlating to the track. This does sound familiar to you, right? Of course, it was the primary issue of Mercedes that they've seemed to overcome, but with a change of personnel. They've brought back James Allison as the technical director. And I'm not saying this on an empty basis. This is practically the strongest argument they could use in order to show Max that when things go wrong, which they can do on every team on the grid, they have the right personnel and tools to recalibrate and bring it back to normal. At the end of the day, everything revolves around the sudden loss of Christian Horner in Red Bull. This cannot be accidental because a man who's been part of the team since day one in 2005 and was recognized as the longest-standing team principal on the grid is now no longer a part of Red Bull. Last year, the internal war ravaged the Austrian team. But even in the worst days of it, not only did Horner survive, but it was rumored that he was given more power in the team. And that's what saw senior personnel like Newey, Corden, and Wheatley leave the team. But if Max were to leave Red Bull and join Mercedes, what are the consequences that the entire Formula One grid would feel? Well, Mercedes would have to get rid of one of their own prodigies, with Russell being the one who is under a lot of fire. The Brit doesn't have a contract for 2026, and from this point of view, we can see why Wolff was very patient with renewing the contract of his driver. Knowing that Max is available and presenting him with all the possibilities that could happen from 2026 onwards under the new regulations, you cannot help but admire the vision that Toto has in this sport. And if Max held talks with Mercedes, something that was mentioned a couple of weeks ago, then he definitely asked for stability. The last thing he needs is to not know who's in charge, and I don't think that's a problem in Mercedes. Yes, there's a board of directors like in every other team, but the shot calling is primarily the job of Wolff. and everything goes through him. Here in Red Bull, Helmut Marko could state something, and then a couple of days later, Horner would come out with a statement that is not the official stance of the team. It was a complete circus. And now, with the departure of all the respected seniors, it's interesting to see where Red Bull is going to end up if Max decides to leave. The job is quite easy for everyone who remained on board. Provide a car that could win races or borderline compete for the championship. The Dutchman proved that he could win the title with the third fastest car on the grid, something that hasn't been done since 1982 and 1983 when Keke Rosberg and Nelson Piquet managed it. But at the end of the day, the problems that Horner admitted had been put aside for the sake of the team have resurfaced. And I think we need to be looking at Jos Verstappen for this entire development of events. The father of Max was adamant that if Horner remained in charge, the entire team was going to crumble as it is. And that's precisely what happened. With all this in mind, do you think that Red Bull could provide stability to Verstappen and help him in the quest of winning the championship potentially from 2026 onwards? And if not, do you think that during the summer break we're going to see another tectonic shakeup of the grid? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that appears on your screen right now.